Welcome one and all back to EU Masters 2022 Summer. I am Oshin. I am joined by the absolutely fantastic Jamada. Jamada, it's been a while since we cast together. Glad to have you here with me.
Yeah, I imagine last time probably would have been spring Amazon EU Masters,
it would have been
actually.
an entire split ago.
It's been about three or 4 months. Doing great, mate. I'm glad to have you here. First day, of course, at MCK Masters, fresh off the LPL regionals and all of the end of the playoffs. How are you doing as well?
Tired, very, very tired. Flew in last night, literally woke up this morning. I was like, I got to prep. I got to figure out what's going on with these teams. But yeah, it is definitely coming into the second half of the week. We're going to be seeing a lot of changes, I imagine. I definitely think a lot of teams from last week after the first round robin are going to be coming in with a lot of different drafts and different ideas of how they can kind of figure out what to do with this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what I really loved about the first week was more or less how a lot of teams just have their own identity, their own ideas on the draft, right? I think going especially from sort of 12-13 to where we are now in 12-15, there's been such a huge change in how a lot of the game wants to be played, right? A lot more focus on dragons typically. It's a lot more punishing to give those up. And some teams are just going buck wild with their drafts, right? This a Go Rogue draft, I believe, on the screen right now, but there was a Go Rogue draft as an example where they were just running like Karthus jungle, Yasuo bot with Alistar, and we've been seeing a lot of Karthus actually here in the group stages. I'm wondering if it's just kind of a phase or whether or not we're going to continue to see some of that throughout the rest of the week, but it's been super fun trying to break down some of these teams and how they want to play out these games.
Yeah, it's been really really interesting to see exactly how they will go. I will say, shout out to, I think it was Macko on day one who brought out a, I think it was Shako hybrid. Yeah, yep. Just kind of randomly, and they got like a 21-minute Baron as well, like completely under Dusty's noses. So you love the creativity, love to see what these guys can do. And again, Macko 0-3. You know, the Italian Stallions very much on the back foot right now, and they need to find that creativity if they want to try and bring it in.
Yeah, they really do. I think, you know, there's always a very fine balance to strike between potentially trolling yourselves in draft and actually having an edge and kind of catching your opponents off guard. How you feel about that? I think a Shaco draft is, you know, it's your own opinions, of course.
Did it or did it not get the Baron? That's the question we have to ask ourselves.
It got the big purple worm, but it also got their Nexus exploded very shortly after.
It did.
So, you know, I'm very excited to see specifically Macko. Obviously, today we're going to be covering Group D. We'll get around to that later on. But a lot of, like we've already kind of highlighted, a lot of that creativity, but also a lot of standard things coming out from a lot of representatives too, where the meta itself in terms of what's picked hasn't necessarily changed, but the idea of the meta changing, how the game wants to be played, has definitely spurred a little bit of creativity from our teams here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I love you say the standardization of this in terms of the meta. It's also the standardization of the entire tournament, because currently LFL kind of wrecking everybody right now, looking like as good as LFL always have. It's kind of how the things tend to go at these times of year.
Yep, all in the top 2 of a group, as you can see here. Unicorns Love and X7 are the only 2 organizations not from the LFL in first place moving into this week.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. You can see Game Ward 3-0. We'll be talking about them a lot today. BDS Academy in a very tough group, I must say. And again, Vitality B and LDLC, not to be undone. I think a lot of people are very curious to see how LDLC bounced back after their X7 loss. Yeah,
definitely. I think it was very interesting, especially as an NLC rep, to see X7 actually kind of come in like guns blazing, full on swinging into LDLC and taking them down in relatively convincing fashion. I, like you say, curious to track and see how LDLC decide to bounce back, because a lot of people have them down as tournament favorites.
Yeah,
there is nothing else beyond that.
That's what I was going to say. It's like you win the LFL, it tends to come with the territory as such. But we're going to be focusing a little bit on Group D, like you said earlier today. We're going to finish off the round robins as our standings come in. This is Game Ward sitting pretty dusty, not too far behind, but for Schalke, Nullfear Esports, and of course Macko, they have got some work to do.
Yes, they absolutely do. Schalke obviously going through their own problems. Macko, however, definitely need to, as we was talking about earlier, find that fine balance between catching opponents off guard with these creative drafts, but also making sure that they're not drafting themselves into too fine of a condition to win. As for Game Ward, they can come into today effectively just trying to handle business as usual. For Dusty, it's ensuring that you're not dropping games to the teams below you and trying to see if you can sneak away that first place, force a tiebreak between yourselves and Game Ward.
Yeah, well, we're going to be covering the first 3 games of the day, and then we'll be handing it over to Duckling and, of course, the fantastic Trouble for the latter half. Hopefully, fingers crossed, to get some tiebreakers, some exciting action. But again, coming into the kind of the start of this one now, we are going to be starting off with Macko versus Game Ward. And Jamana, this is where it has to start. This is where you got to start building the momentum. It starts from Game 1.
Yes, it does. You know, we got a foldy sheet, and I think one of the few scenarios where Match could actually make it in 2-second. Pretty much, they have to win every game. If they drop a single game, that's it. They're just not qualifying. It's very, very. I don't think 2-4s actually are.
I think it is technically possible, but very unlikely.
Yeah, exactly. So Stars have to line for that. So they have to open off today with a pretty banger performance. Otherwise, they could be staring down the barrel of just straight up elimination, and their games feeling a little less high towards the end of the day. But it could open up creativeness. Of course, game 3 is where a lot of eyes will be. Dusty, Game Ward, these are the two teams that are kind of, you know, what the perceived favorites coming into Group D, in my opinion, and facing off against each other, of course. If you win, you give yourself a shot. If you're Dusty, at that tiebreak, if you win, if you're Game Ward, you're effectively securing yourself first place, assuming you don't lose the third game of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it really is just going to come down to that third game. Of course, you got to get there first, and we could focus a little bit on Game Ward because seeding is incredibly important. Getting that first seed coming out of your group, not only are you dodging out all the other Pool 1 seeds, but you're giving yourself, again, a little bit of breathing room. If you lock it in nice and early, you can kind of maybe take a relaxed mood towards the last few games.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, some of these first seeds are looking terrifying. I'm looking over at the right-hand side, and it's like, Unicorns of Love. I think a lot of people probably slept on them coming into the Amazon European Masters. I feel like Prime, as a region, hasn't inherently been doing, you know, the best, or at least to expectations that we kind of hold of the Prime League a lot of the time. But the Unicorns really are a step above the rest of their representatives right now. And of course, X7, LDLC, we'll see who ends up in first place there. And of course, Team BDSA, you want to dodge all of these teams. You don't want to be going into them, but even the second seeds are relatively scary too. So yeah, for Game Ward, in a position where you should be finishing first, or you should at the very least be giving yourself a situation where worst comes to worst, it's tiebreaker. You're talking about your expectations against Dusty. You have to open off today with a win. Yeah, you really do. And I like the way you kind of brought up the kind of the second seeds looking scary as well. I wanted to kind of like holistically as well. We've kind of a lot to see from the Super League. I think the Spanish side have been a little bit disappointing coming into this particular Masters. We're not going to see any of the representatives today, but always curious to see if we get 4 LFL seeds. There's only 4 seeds left in quarters, and I think 2 of those might be going to NLC. So you're running out of spots. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you know, I feel like Heretics in their group, they look strong enough that I expect them to finish top 2. I look over at Group A, however, and I'm worried for Giants. Not because I feel like Giants are necessarily slacking, but more because Vitality B and Unicorns of Love are just such tough opponents that, you know, especially the way that these second round robin days work, all it takes is a bad day. And if you come in on a bad day, you're probably going to just grief your games. And at that point, you're not going to qualify in. You have to make sure that once you're there for those games in particular, you are ready mentally to come up against effectively some of the toughest opponents in the entirety of the tournament. Yeah, I mean, and again, coming in against one of the toughest teams in the tournament, Macko kind of will focus in a little bit now. We did mention a little bit, they had the Heimer Digger and the Shotgun. They also brought out the Olaf as well in one of the previous games as well. So this is a team that isn't afraid to try new things. But like you said, it's a difference between making something, you know, throwing crap at the wall and making sure it sticks and then being left with crap on your wall, you know? Yeah, it's... you know, I've been that mad scientist head coach. I've been a part of those coaching staffs that are willing to put their players on things like Nunu Jungle. Yeah. I'm glad to see that creativity, like you say, fling stuff at the wall and see what sticks. I think that when we start to see them kind of draft slightly less unorthodox things, we start to see a little more, you know, the vim and energy from them. Whilst that Shaco Heimerdinger draft is there's a lot to unpack in that one individual game. I think once we start to see them kind of, you know, do slightly more normal things pertaining to League of Legends, right? Mid 2v2, very strong mid 2v2 in the mid jungle, try and play towards either side, right? Whatever strong side you want to play towards, maybe you want to set up for a strong bottom lane. We've seen a lot of success there, especially in the LEC with picks like Draven, Kalista, etc., where it just kind of becomes relatively unplayable for the other team if you can create this massive pressure sink to have to deal with on the opponent. We'll see whether we get a little bit of that, because we did start to see things like Galio come out of them, which is not really a pick we see too frequently, but it's definitely something that can work into a meta where there's a lot of hard engage a lot of the time. So we'll have to see what exactly they try to come at Game Ward with, because they are definitely Game Ward, the kind of team out of all the LFL teams that are slightly more willing to sit on their hands in the early game and kind of just play by the books with as little aggression as possible, just secure the objectives without really having to interact with the enemy team too much.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up about the kind of like the aggressive bot lanes that we've been seeing from the LEC, because I think something that's kind of slowly became more prevalent throughout playoffs has been the Lucian Nami. It felt like with the Zeri and Sivir that we saw right at the start of playoffs, it was just this kind of handshake, right? See at 3 items, no problem at all. You know, try not to give up as much as you possibly can. But with the addition of the Lucian Nami kind of re-emerging as this incredibly powerful 1 item, 2 item spike, it is starting to become a little bit more of a win condition where it's like, cool, you don't get to the 3 items. You don't get to the 4 item Zeri that's going to 1v1, 1v5 every single team fight, because the Lucian's just going to be able to pop you in 3-4 spells.
Yeah, pretty much. So I think if we start to see slightly more aggressive moves from like Game Ward, for example, which in my head, I doubt, I would start to certainly be worried for Macko. But maybe Macko can bring some of that to Game Ward, right? See if you can pick on some of that sort of willingness to not really get up to too much in the early game so that you can try and snowball yourselves a lead. I think if you can try and shut down Innaxe and Kamilius, who they play through so frequently when they play this style, then maybe you have your way into the game, because players like Asadi and Cboi, they have the experience and the know-how to, you know, for Cboi, play towards strong win conditions. For Asadi, he's very capable of playing on the weak side and not really bleeding out too many resources. The question is, will we get that version of Macko today?
And that's the thing, which version of Macko do we get? Because you look at names like Click, Cboi, these guys have been around for so long. You know, Cboi was on in your region in the NLC at Spring, moved over to the PG Nats. Yeah, so this guy knows how to play in different regions. He knows how to fit in different environments, but it is about kind of coming out and being as strong as you possibly can be. And I do love that Game Ward are taking into consideration things like the Ivern, the Rengar Ivern is just such a powerful pocket kind of composition that Macko love to go for. And again, like you said, Game Ward, they like to think slow. They like to take things nice and easy.
Yeah, exactly. And Game Ward removing away some of those kind of irritating, I don't know if you'd necessarily call Ivern, Rengar, you know, pretty strong scaling bites, very strong scaling, and very annoying in the early game to deal with. It's, yeah, there you go. But removing away some of these picks, which give a lot of flexibility over to Macko, right? The center as well kind of does the same thing. You can pick so many different bruises in the bottom lane with the center, and even some enchantments to a degree, right? Things like Karma and Seraphine sometimes come through as options. We've even seen things like the Yasuo center come out over in the LCK. And I think it reared its head in the LPL once, but maybe I am overthinking. Seraphine is that next big ban away. It's so many games like that. Been there now. I understand.
I was going to say, it's like statistically, you could be correct, but I have no idea if I can verify that for you. But yeah, the Seraphine ban away. We are going to see the Taliyah being picked up, and this has been something that has been creeping up in everyone's draft. The power you get in the lane alongside having that, you know, semi-global ultimate, just with the power you get right up into the late game. When you get the 3-4 items, you hit like, well, like a rock.
Yeah, you do. Like a rock, very well put. And the question is not so much whether or not it'll be flexed, because Cboi hasn't really shown a tendency to play it, but to me, more about what Macko are going to pair this up with in terms of the mid jungle to me. And of course, I suppose maybe this being Macko, they do have it in their locker to play it towards the bottom lane, but that is yet to be seen. For Game Ward though, very stock standard. Zeri scaling in the bottom side, Ahri as a blind, something that we see a lot in this meta. Will we see something like the Poppy come out, Poppy Taliyah, one of those kind of premier 2v2 jungles still? Or will we see something a little bit different maybe? I think going towards something like Trundle will be a little bit too difficult, a little bit too hard to lock down something like the Zeri and the Ahri. And maybe actually what's coming to mind right now is probably Vi, I think, to be honest with you. Such hyper mobile carries from Game Ward right now. Definitely use some lockdown from that jungle role.
Yeah, gonna need a little bit of extra kind of setup, and the solo lane's already been picked up here from Macko. This is something we tend to not see in. Wow, okay, Akshan banned, picked in. This has been something that's been consistently banned against Macko in that second rotation. So now they're just saying, look, we want to take it. This could be our last opportunity to really have a chance in this group. We have to pull out all the stops.
Yeah, all right, I'm down for it. Let's send it from HawHaw, and that should mean Cboi is piloting that Taliyah. Of course, like I said, Taliyah is still technically flexible. Game Ward, though, going towards what's looking to be the Yuumi. Everybody boo Game Ward, and we'll see what they end up banning in the second phase. You'd expect it's going to be supports, anything aggressive, something like Nautilus, perhaps, that can get them that very free lockdown onto the Zeri, just looking mostly towards engage. Whereas for Macko, expect to see some of Melonik's champion pool banned away that can maybe bully out onto that Gangplank.
Yeah, they want to try and give Gangplank as easy a time as they possibly can. I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe the Gnar, just because of how safe it can be with the mini range and stuff like that, to kind of ban away. But banning away things like on the bot side makes total sense to me. You want to try and stop that hard engage, like you mentioned there, because that's the one big thing you're kind of missing out of this composition for Macko, is just straight up, how do you start a fight?
Yeah, I will say one thing that I'm noticing right now for Game World is there's a pretty distinct lack of engage themselves. So I wonder if Macko maybe kind of double down on that as well in terms of the bans. Removing away someone like Wukong definitely sort of fills and takes away that void in a sense. And I suppose even though it's a good matchup, maybe you look to remove away the Ornn from Melonik, right? Very solid, consistent, non-committal engage. Even though Gangplank, yes, once one can bully out and on occasion have a free lane into it, I think you also remove a very strong tool away from Game World, which they could very happily utilize given what they see from Macko right now.
Yeah, I think again, looking at the way Macko, or excuse me, looking at the way Game World actually play the game, it is about kind of getting those big front-to-back team fights, setting themselves up nice, slowly and calmly. Things like the Ahri and the Zeri and Yuumi are fantastic, but banning out junglers here, again, hard engaged junglers, no Cyclone because of the Wukong ban, and no straight up cease and desist coming out here from the Vi. So just kind of limiting the pool. But I was just about to say to Sejuani, you already have so many things still available.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can still go towards something like the Xin Zhao if you're Akabane. If you want to send that Sejuani to the top side, then you kind of have a hard-winning top side in terms of the 2v2. The Xin Zhao still going to provide a lot in terms of the team fighting and have, you know, the ability to have Yuumi backpack onto him and kind of go and dive deep with that invincibility whilst also carrying the Yuumi. So let's see how Macko decide to respond. It looks like they're going to go towards the Rakan, potentially hovering, will get locked in. And honestly, I quite like that Rakan when there's not too much point and click CC. In fact, there's none from Game World. Does make him very hard to lock down. He just has to kind of play around things like the Glacial Prison, not get chain CC'd is the key thing, ensure that he's not walking in to things like the Charm as well. But how will Macko really want to round this out? Because at the moment, I will say they're kind of lacking a bit of a clear identity. They definitely will do well around controlling chokes, right? Gangplank, Taliyah are really good at doing things like that. Trundle kind of plays into that theme as well, and it's going to pay a lot of dividends into that Sejuani in terms of making sure that Game World are down at least one tank. We'll see exactly how Game World want to try and round out with that in mind, because Macko, not a whole bunch of engage outside of just that Rakan. They're going to have to really pay attention to things like flank angles and try and get a little bit creative with some of their engages. Super good uses of the Cannon Barrage are going to be pretty necessary as well. Game World, however, they've got slightly more consistent forms of engage, right? Send in somebody with the Yuumi on their back, send in the Sejuani, get the picks going. If one bit of CC lands, and all of a sudden the Charm connects, or vice versa. So from Game World, a little more standard as we expect, a little more slow scaling towards the bottom side. They pick up the Lee Sin in the end. It's not that Xin Zhao like we kind of spoke about. We'll see how Akabane decides to play and how he will do actually on a pick that I feel like is starting to show up a little bit more frequently than most people probably expect.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of slowly kind of people realizing it's like, okay, junglers, all about early skirmishing, all about setting up early kind of 2v2s in the mid, you know, or even 2v1s for the mid lane combination. Lee Sin fits that absolutely perfectly. We've been seeing it kind of hovering in on a couple of the major regions as well, and it's something that I think any jungler worth their salt is going to be able to play, even regardless of how long it's been. You kind of play a couple of customs and you're right back in there with the flash insects. But again, very bog standard, not in a bad way from the side of Game World, but it is going to be about how Macko can upset the tempo, move the map around a bit more frequently, and just make this, you know, this Akshan work in their favor. It's got a lot of very poignant power spikes. Whether or not they get to use them, though, is the big question.
Yeah, and for me, because I don't get to cast Akshan too frequently.
He has the worst Q name ever. It's Avengerang.
Isn't it Avengerang?
Yeah. It sucks.
That is a bad name.
It's only when you think about it, it's like, what is it? It's a boomerang, but we already have a boomerang in the game. Avengerang. It's like, well, that sucks.
I mean, you know, I guess Avengerang, throw it out. You kind of, you know, revive people, revenge, that kind of stuff. We'll see. Game World, though. Hello.
And they're looking for something as they make their way in here. Again, just early aggressive movement here. You have the Yuumi there available to yourself, so just easy to kind of like kite that one out. You got a pretty strong level 1 as well if you take the Permafrost onto the Sejuani, but not to be for the moment. Of course, don't forget to claim your August/September League of Legends monthly capsule for all of the Prime shoppers out there for your chance to get RP, Mythic Essence, skins, and more.
Good read.
Thanks, man.
Good
Thanks,
read.
Man. I know when I do this, our producer has a massive smile on his face just how perfect I'm able to read that off of the script.
You can just tick it off the list of things that need to be done in each game, you know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, you know, and I watch, you know, it's one of those things that's kind of part and parcel. Without sponsors, we don't have a tournament, just kind of put it out there. But
True.
Yeah, but come back into the game, talking about where we're going. Actually, curious to mention, we didn't really get a huge amount of time to talk about, but the Taliyah actually going to be functioning in this bot side.
Yeah.
Not going to have as huge roam potential with that Weaver's Wall, but it can still do work if you can get it moving.
Yeah, and I suppose the expectation without necessarily seeing the matchup is that potentially it should be able to secure priority for itself. Maybe not in the first couple of levels, but once there's a couple of points in that threaded volley, you'd expect that Rharesh will be consistently securing first move for himself, and also Click, and just the ability to have a lot of wave clear to himself means that perhaps Click will get up towards the rest of the map and see if he can find any kind of impact, specifically towards the mid lane, right? When you've got something like the Akshan, obviously Akshan in itself, I suppose considered a roaming champion, right? With that invisibility, with the extra movement speed in that stealth. We'll see exactly how Macko want to play this one out, right? Because I think they've got two very unconventional lanes, and then that Gangplank kind of sitting up there in the top side in a matchup where he should be able to farm relatively safely. What exactly will they do in terms of their game plan for who's the carry, right? I think Gangplank, very, very strong in a tank matchup, also has first strike, which is a big thumbs up from me. I feel like too many Gangplanks kind of default to that grasp of the Undying. Generate your gold, guys. Get more bonus damage out of that rune. I promise you, it's better than grasp more times than it's not.
Cash blank.
Cash plank, baby.
Cash plank, baby.
Bank plank.
Yeah, bank plank. I've never heard that one.
You've never heard bank plank? That's what they call it.
I never called it that. I just called it cash plank.
Oh,
I can kleptomancy, everything. Kleptomancy, coal, and then obviously you just get your doubloons. So.
I suppose so, but nothing too spicy from the first clear of either jungler, though. Akabane is hovering around the mid lane, looking for that charm. Not going to quite connect, and HawHaw is going to be just okay in the mid lane. I think definitely this is going to be a point of contention between both of these two teams here. When you have Lee Sin Ahri, typically it's just kind of almost like a black hole. It just sucks everything. Everybody wants to be around this lane. I mean, they always say in EU mid lane, it's not really a 1v1, it's effectively a 3v3, right? You've got his supports up there. This game, though, however, with a Yuumi, maybe that's not always going to be the case. I expect to see Akabane trying to pay as much attention as he can towards that mid lane to try and shut down HawHaw on this pick, because Akshan can definitely get things going and snowball out of control very quickly with his kind of kit.
Again, this is just good moves here from knowing how to play the Lee Sin. Lee Sin great at getting those early camps going for himself. Of course, the execute on his Q is exceptionally strong at just keep taking those big tamps down as quickly as you possibly can. Great AoE. Again, just the all-in-all really good jungler, but now he's going to have a ward to hop to over this wall, and that could mean a bit of a 2v2 in this top side. They're going to try and make this one work. They're going to jump here onto HCD, but nowhere for him to go, which means first blood goes over to the side of Game Ward. You will still have Cboi putting down some significant damage here, but no real follow-up, no real CC means he's not really going to get anything out of it.
Yeah, the big issue is the wave, and you can see Cboi and Click on the back end. They're just going to shove this one in, allow Acid to just walk back to lane. We'll see whether they want to try and do anything funny here. I think what we're going to end up seeing is Melonik just teleports back, unless they just allow the Lee Sin to eat all of the waves, and then they can keep the teleports. No. All right, that's fine.
He's just going to eat it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this is CS that at the end of the day, Melonik would have missed, right? So giving it to Lee Sin is still A-okay. This does mean there's, for now, Game Ward on the bottom side. Just going to get a pretty free shove in Innaxe. And Kamilius on the Zeri Yuumi, getting a bit of a free early couple of minutes down here. And yeah, we've seen what Zeri can do as Kamilius gets left alone, but he'll farm up some of those Rust stacks, so I'm sure he's okay with that.
I mean, this is the benefit of going with a mage in the bot side. When you get to level 4 beyond, when you get the access to the full kit, and you're against a Yuumi, not really much kill pressure, to be perfectly honest. Not many ways that you can actually get a 2v1 kill here onto Taliyah. Very difficult to even kind of aggressively go forward. So very nicely done here to see Macko try and just like move, click around the map, see if he can maybe influence someone there with an early Rakan guy. Because yes, Rakan is exceptionally squishy, but his CC is nothing to be sniffed at. So he's got some moves if he's able to find an overextended person.
Yeah, definitely does. My only concern is when we start to get towards the later stages of the game, if Innaxe and Kamilius are super on their toes as a duo, again, for Macko, Click is one of their only forms of an, true hard engage. So I'm kind of worried about how they're going to end up locking down Innaxe, because I feel like anytime we see some of those Zeri gaming moments, it's because there's no hard lockdown. Right now, though, ganking the bottom side.
Yeah, ganking the bottom side. It's a bit of a 1v1 between the Lee Sin and the Taliyah right now. The Yuumi jumps back on top, but when the Ignite did go in, that's Ghost Ignite burnt for just the one summoner of the Taliyah. But now you got Czekolad up into the top side, and he's just CC'd to absolute death. Really good face tanking there from Melonik. And this is just Game Ward dotting their I's, crossing their T's.
Yeah, and this all comes back from that original gank, because that wave got hard shoved in. It allowed Melonik to effectively just build a slow push here, as the bottom side Rharesh pretty low, but should be able to whip down out. And Game Ward just have a perfect read on it. Czekolad comes up towards the top side on a free timer. Looks like HawHaw wasn't able to really get too much done. He's hungry, looking around for something, but isn't going to find anything on the bottom side. But at the very least, Macko will respond to that top side dive with this dragon, so they'll get that one going for them, at least in the early stages. But it's more about whether you can actually consistently stack these back to back.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Like, yes, they are still exceptionally strong, you know, individually themselves. I actually think that in terms of standalone single dragons, probably the Hex Dragon is one of the best in the game to get, especially this early on. Yeah. But it is something, it's kind of a win condition that you need to try and keep going for yourself. You have the Trundle, you have got a AD mid laner as well. There's a real, you know, argument to be said here that Macko shouldn't be letting any of these dragons go if they can play the map right.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I agree with that point entirely. With this Akshan, even though, top side, as they should be fine though. But again, like taking these pretty poor trades, all it's going to do is attract the Game Ward team to the top side. Akabane is already here.
I was going to say. I think he's dead. Not a lot he can do here. Melonik is going to get himself out. And actually, Akabane does have to flash, but they're still putting down the herd. 0-3 now here for ACD, and he's just not having a fun time. And he's actually losing so many plates as well. Not only is he losing minions to this tower, but he's losing plates. This Sejuani is going to be so big.
Yeah, definitely. And when you look towards the Macko side as well, you know,
Melonik, he's rich.
He's pretty rich. I mean, I was going to say, who's the tank killer, but they got Trundle and Akshan. It might be all right. Czekolad.
He's getting put down very low. They put down the subjugate, and they did have the comeuppance, but the comeuppance shall not be given today. Czekolad does have to use the Spirit Rush. He gets himself out, but again, it's why it's so hard to lock down an Ahri when you don't have point and click, you know, champion, kill champion CC.
And this is why I was calling for that Vi pick at that B2, B3 mark, right? Go for the Gangplank, sure, fine. They have that Taliyah, but you really want to have something to lock down this Ahri and the Zeri. So I need the Trundle, sure. I think the only silver lining to having the Trundle in this game right now is that because Game Ward are playing towards the top side, I might have to hold the point.
He stole it!
I think Cboi got that.
He did indeed. He get it out as well. Like, I think you just need to leave, ACD. You need to get out of here, because if you get hit, you might be in a hell of a lot of trouble. No flash here, no ult for Akabane, but I feel like ACD kind of didn't really need to be there, and they're going to fully try and commit onto him, force his flash out of him. And look, I think it's great from Cboi, but I think ACD soured the milk a little bit on the end.
Yes, just the touch. I think if there's a silver lining, not to this play going towards Macko, because to be fair, they pick up the Herald, so we'll see what gold they can generate from it. But because Game Ward are playing so heavily towards the top side, it's a Sejuani and there is a Trundle on the opposite team, so how much of a tank will this Sejuani get to be consistent, we'll have to see. And like you say, ACD, unfortunately, just kind of gets clipped by that Sonic Wave. Just trying to see what he can do to potentially keep Cboi alive, but he was always going to drop there. And now I guess the question is, where will this Herald get put down? Because top side is getting absolutely smashed. Do you want to try and bring Gangplank back into this game? He's actually going towards the full glass kind of build. He's got the essence reaver, so
he needs the gold.
he needs the gold. I think if there's one kind of positive thing about this build path is it's pretty cheap. So I suppose it's going to get him to power spike slightly sooner. But Gangplank, more than items to a point, kind of needs those levels first, right? It needs to get to that level 13 mark, so the barrels are very easy for him to actually use, not easy to just kind of walk away from on the Game Ward side. So we'll see. But yeah, I think at the moment HawHaw's been pretty consistently shoved in, though as I say that, Cast the Curse I suppose gets a little bit of mid lane priority. So it's kind of on Macko in terms of where they want to put this Herald, but I feel like their options are pretty limited, all things considered.
Yeah, they're pretty limited, but I will say they should have the cooldown available to themselves once the dragon spawns at a minute 40 time. So maybe there's an opportunity for them there. They are 3,000 gold down already. It is a pretty sizable gap. I will say majority of that is in the top half. If almost all of it is in the top half of the map between the between the top laner and the jungler. A couple, about 20 gold or 20 CS for Innaxe over his counterpart as well. So not to be understated how well he's been able to kind of farm up on this Zeri. But now we see Cboi looking for maybe something here. Flash in with the charm. They do have the final chapter, but they couldn't get the flick back in position.
Game Ward now.
And yeah, Game Ward not going to go fully commit onto this one there. All they get is the flash from Innaxe. They use quite a bit on their own side.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I suppose a repeat attempt at something like this could then actually work out without that flash being there from Innaxe. It's a very nice attempt. Any later on that flash, you get knocked back into the Unraveled Earth and you are probably going to go down. But here's the response now from Game Ward, because Czekolad was second to the move. He shoves in the mid lane now as he returns first back, and now he goes towards the top side, where Asadi, well, he's paying a lot of respect. He's very aware of what could be happening right now.
I mean, he's aware, but aware doesn't make it any better for you. You're just kind of sitting there waiting for things to kind of go your way. Akabane maybe thinking about maybe going for something here on the top side, but or in the mid lane, I should say. But on the top side, Asadi, yeah, he's dead. He's just gonna get 1v1s, and yeah, there's nothing really you can really do there. The Sejuani's too big. You don't really have an opportunity to kind of come back onto that. Even when an Essence Reaver been finished up now, that's gonna basically be solo plates going over to Melonik.
Yeah, really nice from Melonik. It just kind of recognizes, I believe, this Ignite plus double passive proc. It's too much to deal with. The Herald's going to get dropped here in the bottom side of the map. Innaxe really fancy feet there. Get knocked by anything. This Herald will give a little bit of gold over to this bottom lane, but
if it gets a
feels
charge,
like a band-aid. It's going to get the charge, but it feels like a band-aid on, like, you know, a massive head wound at this point, right? Like, Macko are really, really far behind. I think one thing I always do point to, though, is despite the massive gold lead, it's actually item completions, which are a little more important to track, right? A team can have a 4k gold lead, but if they haven't based and spent it, or hell, maybe they have, but the full item completions are at parity, there's still a little bit of wiggle room to fight around. Obviously, there's a little more context game by game, but item completions are what change champions and how they work. And right now, for Macko, I think once they base, they're going to be around parity relatively soon. So they shouldn't worry too much. It's the cloud! Yes! Right, okay. I celebrate. It's only funny because whenever I'm here, I've always preached, you know, the strength of the Cloud Dragon and the soul. It's underrated at the moment, Ashin. I don't know where you lie on this debate. Whether you lie anywhere, actually.
Well, play your cards right and you'll find out. Anyway. Well, like, I think I fall into the church of our Lord and Savior, Dan Ox Harrison, where I think that the Ocean Dragon is probably one of the weakest at the moment. I think Cloud Dragon has plenty of uses at the moment, but Akabane, yeah, he's pretty safe. He's got the cat on his back, the devil on his shoulder, if you will. So he's not really going to be feeling any pressure at the moment. I will say, in the Smite fights, small little, against, I think as I said, Don, one of those small little moments you can go for. Never mind. I was just about to praise Cboi, but he might just be getting taken out here. Yeah, nowhere for him to go. He gets caught off from his escape. There's another charm there on the click. He gets kicked back into no man's land, and it's 7-0. It's a 5,000 gold lead, and it is just absolute domination right now from Game Ward. They may not have gotten any of the neutral objectives, but they don't care, Jamada.
It's a routing, isn't it? Really, Game Ward, top to bottom. And it's funny, you know, because I mentioned in the pre-game, Game Ward, think about it like this, Game Ward are typically the least active early game team from the LFL representatives. But this is maybe the kind of game where, if this is a case study, you would definitely think otherwise. Really nice charm connects into Everfrost. The lockdown just comes in, and even though there's the response from Click and even the Gangplank almost try and slow everybody down, the problem is, Melonik just moves from the top side of the map through those two towers. Click also ends up getting kicked over the wall. Nothing you can really do about that. And then here on the bottom side, yeah, Melonik's just too strong. The Ghost isn't really going to get you away from that. Really, really good stuff from Game Ward. Clean, clinical. They don't drop a single member.
And it's just getting harder and harder. You've got the Kraken Slayer now here for HawHaw, but it's he ain't laughing right now. It's a tough one. No. It's a tough one for him. But yes, you got the 2 dragons, but you're giving over multiple dragons in a row over to Game Ward. If you get them up, even a 2 and 3 stack before the soul, it's such a powerful buff as well with the out of combat movement speed. Even things like getting rid of the percentage of the slows, so the Trundle's not going to be as relevant. Things like this have got a massive impact on how you're able to play the game.
Oh boy.
And They're trying to get a little bit cheeky right now. They do not have many places to go. They do have a Taliyah to try and stop everyone from moving forward. Wow. No more worked ground, but they still do have some more spirit rushes. They're waiting to try and burn out any more of these flashes, any more of these mobilities. And oh no.
Oh God.
No, where are you supposed to go? What are you supposed to do?
It's a slaughter.
It's a slaughter. They're being harassed into the slaughterhouse, and they're just decimated, having hamburgers here out of the corpses of Macko. And Shelly's in on the job as well.
Oh, if it couldn't get any worse, Akabane lines him up, hits him down with the 3-man kick as that dive comes in. And Melonik is just going to reap the rewards of that secondary charge, 600 gold. He's got a Morello, man. He is like leaning back, feet on the desk right now. He does.
I love it. I love it.
I will say, consolation prize, 2 towers with objective bounties.
It's nice.
Bad thing about that, you're down 7,000 gold.
Yeah.
It's, you know, pros and cons, people. Pros and cons.
This
really
is,
nice stuff.
This is just, again, they just said the 5 members versus 3. The maths checks out. Ramada, they just lose.
Yeah, they do indeed. Numbers advantage. No one from the rest of this lineup from Macko can be here, but that kick, man. Nothing they can do once they get hit by that. I feel like there's nothing they could do anyway. It's just the, you know,
style points, really, isn't it?
you know the POV. Someone's on the floor, they're getting jumped, and it's like that one last person with the elbow drop. That's the kick there from
people's elbow. It's nothing else other than swag points, but you're like, damn, that was cool. I like that. Yeah, and again, it's just tough, you know, here for Macko. They are significantly far behind, like you mentioned. They have got objective bounties available to him.
Oh boy.
But yeah, he's dead. That is a 5-level difference between Click and Melonik. That is how difficult it's going to be. You're going to get bursted out by the Sejuani, let alone if everyone else is there.
Yep, exactly. All right, another tower bounty. Smile. Maybe something to work with it for Macko, but right now it's all about game mode. They haven't dropped a single kill. Lost the towers, yes, but realistically, raindrops in an ocean in terms of how far behind this Macko lineup is. And they pretty much just kind of have to sit here, pray, see if they can hit items before game mode continue this domination. Problem is 2 minutes when this Baron spawns up, I think game mode are going to be all over it. And at that point, that's where things get really tricky for Macko. First dragon, and look, hear me out. Cloud dragons. I love this. So
it's sure you cast for the NLC and not the LCK.
you know, hey guys, I'm always happy to show up. But
we're coming up to off season, man. You never know.
Hey, man. But think about it like this, right? Cloud dragons. Imagine you're game more than you get 4, right? That's 28% out of combat movement speed, plus the 15% from soul, right? So that's a grand total of 43% movement speed just walking around the map. And if your champion's good with soul and you cast your ultimate, that's an additional. You're almost sprinting around the map at 100% movement speed if you have all 4 dragons.
It's like Moby Boots for free, basically. It's even better than Moby Boots.
It's practically Moby Boots if you have, I think it's 3 dragons plus soul.
Yeah.
Like 3 clouds plus soul.
Plus whatever actual boots you went with for that
yeah.
you know, better kind of condition.
Exactly. So, you know, look, all I'm saying is it's just really hard to tangibly scale how much use you can get out of Cloud Dragon, right? We're in a meta where there's loads of team fights and loads of skirmishes, like the one we're about to see Game Mode engage on.
Ooh, swing and a miss coming in there from Melonik. He's at that tanky. He needs to be a bit careful.
Subjugate's down.
He's got Subjugate on top of him, and he's been shot down. That goes over to HawHaw. And again, Game Ward, you're far ahead, but you're not that far ahead. And I do think that this slightly more AP-heavy Sejuani build came back to bite him a bit.
Yeah, just a touch, but also remember, because the Trundle is in the game, this is what I spoke about earlier, this is Game Ward's only real frontliner, the Sejuani. The Trundle's just going to subjugate her every single time she goes in and effectively just make her a big, squishy 3k health bar. We'll see what Game Ward try and do on the back end of this, because they are looking for the blue buff, maybe in exchange afterwards.
Oh, they get the flick back though, and that's going to be Akabane going into stasis, so he has to use his Zhonya's, will steal away the blue buff. Thinking about it. He's thinking about it. He's not going to go. Not yet.
He was thinking about it. But, what they're not thinking about is the Baron, because they're doing. But is this overzealous?
I don't know.
Like, Innaxe is our mana. He's not 2 items. This is good. This is risky in my books, but we'll see how it goes. There you go, Cannon Barrage. Stop that. game Macko say.
I mean, look, I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that I think Macko are going to win. I'm just saying the Game Ward need to be a little bit careful with how they continue with the rest of this game, and they got to be very, very aware that it was a 7,000 gold lead. It's now a 4,000 gold lead. They can't just be giving over willy-nilly because the Gangplank will scale, the Taliyah will make it so you can't push waves, and the Trundle will continuously steal away your front line. This isn't a surefire thing right now because Melonik's still going for AP.
Yeah, he is. I mean, again, like with the Trundle, I guess it's kind of one of those fine balance in Axe where if you go too much armor, then you make Trundle too tanky, or you go like too many resist, you make Trundle too tanky. So I get it, and I'm not gonna inherently criticize it, because I guess when you're that far ahead, it's kind of, you know, extra burst damage at that point, right? But do you really need it when you've got all of the CC your kit provides plus an Ahri charm? I feel like the answer probably leans towards no. But again, it's kind of a catch-22, right? You go towards more stats, resistances, you're just making the enemy tankier. So I don't mind it, honestly. But we'll see where he decides to go with this very creative build next, because he's got another tome.
Oh, he's got another tome! And that's the power you can get with all of this engage. But again, the Subjugate means that Cboi's too tanky to dive. So yes, you've killed the Taliyah, but that's a Taliyah with Weaver's Wall. They might be able to get back in here. That's only a 26-second death timer.
Yeah, I think the crucial thing is now Cboi doesn't have Subjugate to actually walk in, check this Baron, be a little bit tankier to try and go in for this 50-50, and now it's a 4v5 as well. They still have the engage tool of Click. And this Baron, I don't think it's going down too quickly.
I can't see the health bar, so I have no idea. I have no idea. It could be the fastest or slowest Baron we've ever seen. I'm going to lean on probably not the fastest. As we can look at it, there it is. Thank you so much. Here we go. The flash engage comes in. Cannon Barrage does a hell of a lot of damage. Akabane just get the kick out, but Akabane's taking too much damage. Ooh, he does get the safeguard out, and now Game Ward are trying to see the Zeri. Innaxe trying to get the damage down with the Qs, but he's not really getting it. That's the Weaver's Wall I was talking about earlier to try and stop everyone from coming in. And oh, I don't know about this one, Shamata. It's getting a little bit rough and ready. It's getting a little bit messy.
It's pretty dicey, honestly, trying to take down Barons against this Macko composition. Cannon Barrage, Taliyah, even though she wasn't present this time, Rakan as well. So many AoE abilities you have to consistently worry about in front of the pit here, which just makes Baron attempts so rough. So difficult. Really nice defense there from Macko. Not overcommitting too hard, but also almost bursting out Akabane. And I think if they took him down, maybe they could continue an angle for a 4v4, but at the very least, the Baron doesn't go down. The Purple Worm buff is not in Game Ward's back pocket. Macko can continue to hold on here as they continually pick up these items, scale towards the late game again. The gold lead doesn't matter if item completions are relatively enough close, right? In this case, it's the tank Sejuani who's ahead of Asadi, but everywhere else, you're looking at 2 items. So it's honestly not too bad of a spot for Macko to be in and play out this game. They just have to make sure that they don't fall prey to any more of these mid-lane engage from Melonik and Czekolad.
And here's the big thing, 10 more minutes until Dragon Soul at minimum here for the side of for Game Ward. So Macko are happy to sit back. There's only been 3 towers taken on both sides. You haven't really cracked open this game. And yes, the scoreboard might tell you that this is all Game Ward, and I won't lie, it has. But at the same time, this isn't going to be as relevant when you get that Lord Dominic's regard here on Asadi. When you're able to maybe go for a 1v1, the kick comes in, the execute is good. He's not quite able to get the Prowler's Claw off to the back of this.
He's dead.
Oh, he gets himself the triumph, but he's going to have a Taliyah coming back on the backside of this, and he will fall. So that's another big shutdown. And again, Game Ward, I'm going to say it, I don't like how you're playing this. I think it's way too disrespectful. You're not really thinking about how this game is playing out.
Yeah, definitely so. I feel like maybe a little bit too complacent, right? You get a massive lead like that in the early game, start having a little bit too much fun in the comms, you know, things can get a little bit dirty. They're not as clean, consistent as, okay, these are the lane assignments, we need to be doing this. Right now, it feels like Game Ward a little too loose on what they're going for here. And you understand Akabane is pretty damn fed at that point, and sure, Asadi has been pretty far behind, but he almost pretty much one-shot him, lucked out a bit on the crit with the barrel, I think it was, but either way, it's stuff you got to factor in.
You got to
factor
it in.
Like not doing that.
It's, yeah, Look, I'm going to wait for it now, but again, it's a 4,000 gold lead. It's been like that. Actually, it's been coming down a little by little, bit by bit, and you're not really getting any further ahead. You're not cracking open mid. You're not cracking open the side lanes. You're not really gaining any pressure on the map. You're just kind of ping-ponging waves, which is exactly what Macko like to do. Your Baron take isn't extremely fast until you get the 3 items onto your Zeri, so they're going to go for it again, but they're spot out every single time. You still have Cannon Barrage. You're going to be fine to try and dissuade this.
Yeah, and it's not like the members of Macko are very far away. This Baron, it's not crazy speedy, so the response is going to be here.
Cannon Barrage comes out. They do get the TP out of Acidi as well. He gets a move here onto Czekolad. They're going to try and burn down here onto HawHaw, and he will fall. So shutdown there goes on to him. And they might turn and burn back again. They still have the subjugate, still have flash from Cboi, and like I said earlier, Cboi's had the number of Akabane. He's been able to get those really good smites off to steal the objectives. So I don't know about Game Ward. I'm just thinking this isn't the best play.
I'm going to be honest, even though it's just HawHaw going down, he's not one of those members that has those big AoE abilities, right? He's about that single target damage in front of the pit. Sure, impactful, but if you're talking about trying to get multiple members off the Baron, you want to try and pick members like Acidi, like Rharesh. So Macko, I think, just kind of strong-arm Game Ward out of the river again.
My God. I'm
very happy to just stalemate.
I mean, again, like, you're now on 3 items on HawHaw. He's going to be able to shred someone in the side lane. You're almost the Lord Dominic's regards here onto Acidi. And yes, well done, Melonik. You've got yourself the AP Sejuani. I'm just going to call a spade a spade. I don't think it's good. It's not what you needed. This wasn't your job. You didn't need to be the carry here. You needed to be the front line.
Agreed. But
glad we came to that conclusion.
I mean, me too, actually. Me too. But yeah, I think right now, you know, I look at this from the perspective of Macko. They're doing just fine. The Lord Doms is there, and an extra agility cloak on top of that, over that 50% crit mark now, praying to the RNG gods that he can find a crit onto Innaxe, onto Czekolad, heavily chunk them out. That barrel
nearly
looked like it was close enough to work, but apparently it wasn't.
Acidi thought so as well. He missed the charm here. Czekolad, he loses his ultimate. Oh lordy, I'm not saying it's a surefire thing for Macko, but I'm starting to believe a little bit more. He goes in because he has to, because he's going to have to use it at some point. But now you don't have that for a potential Baron fake to try and turn and burn.
Another pillar to try and disrupt here, but can they re-engage Game Ward? Eyeing up the idea, but that's a lot of barrels used by Acidi. I think in the HUD I can see he's only got 2 in stock right now. But you can see Macko, the mentality right now is very much forward. They know the strength that they're at in this game right now. Czekolad, ultimate has the flash.
Yeah, had the flash, otherwise he was going to be hit back there. It's going to be the Glacial Prism, but again, it's not really going to do a lot here, so you have to back away. That's 3 ultimates now down on the side of Game Ward. They're not going to be able to extend the game or going to push and pressure where they wanted to do, but they're going to try and force it anyway. Here we go. We're going to see Melonik going golden, but it's going to be a movement straight onto Akabane, and then Melonik is dead. He's not tanky. He hasn't got the health bar or resistances. And I must call it straight as spade. I think Macko are going to be able to take this one now because they have total control of mid lane and the dragon.
Honestly, hard agree, Akshan, and right there, Melonik just gets bursted out. This could be another re-engage here. Czekolad, he's got the other one. Wait, dead.
He's just deleted. You can't walk forward like that onto a Taliyah. It's just not how this game works. And Game Ward, when does a fun game stop becoming fun? Because right now, I'm not laughing.
I think we're over that hill. I think it stopped being fun just now. And I thought, honestly, even though, yes, Melonik was probably going to get bursted down always, I looked at the positioning of Czekolad, I looked at the positioning of Innaxe, and I thought that was a fight that they could look to take, but the Cannon Barrage just stops them from advancing forward. Yes, they can kind of hit over the wall a bit, but Macko do such a great job of just hugging the bottom side of the wall to ensure that Ahri and Zeri can't really get too much done here. As you can see, the chases he comes in, Melonik just dies, right? And as soon as they see all that damage coming down, the Cannon Barrage comes in from Acidi, and there's no further engagement from Czekolad or from Innaxe, and then they just path around. And at this point, you know, the Ahri, it's got such a short cooldown. Czekolad just says, all right, you know, maybe I can fish for something here. Clicks really close to me, goes in, misses, actually looks for HawHaw in the end, and just gets pillared into the Unraveled Earth, stunned up, and at that point, it's always a one fight for Macko. It was already a one fight for Macko, and now they're 1 away from Soul, and they've got the ability now to set up in the river.
Yeah, they're the ones now pushing towards this Baron. They're the ones saying, cool, we're on Soul Point. It's now a 3,000 gold lead, so we brought that down. 3 items across the board. A death cap for the Taliyah is huge right now. And I love this itemization from Cboi. Getting the Anathema's chains, putting it onto the Zeri and saying, cool, Innaxe is the only one who can bloody kill me, so if I put it on him, I'm not dying.
Yeah, pretty much. That's always going to be the mentality here from Cboi. He knows he's not really going to get one shot by, you know, individually the likes of Melonik or Czekolad. Just give him the Anatomer stack, and you know that you're going to be A-okay. And then you can still go towards, you know, this Frozen Heart, Randuin's, whatever he wants to pick up. It's up to him. Really doing a good job, Cboi, of his itemization. I think in general, Macko have just done such a great job of just holding on, right? Yeah. And I think, sure, you can definitely point fingers towards Game Ward.
Oh, I will. I will.
Very much getting lackadaisical.
If Macko can win this, I'm pointing at one person, and that's who I'm going to blame.
And I have to say, right, I think it then starts to pose questions towards the rest of the day, right? Yes, Schalke having their own struggles right now, but how will you perform against them? Or even Dusty, who have no issues at all, looking definitely like the strongest, or the second strongest in this group at the moment. How you face up against them later on if you're playing like this.
Yeah, he does get hit, he gets executed as well. They're going to try and turn this one back down to Akabane. Oh, the cats! They got the cats! That's a support for support trade. It's on the Cboi, but again, he's very tanky. These barrels are starting to crit. Here comes the comeuppance, and it might just be that for Game Ward because they disrespected the PG Nats champions, and they are struggling to finish off this game.
Oh, they really are. Game Ward, they start off with a really nice pick, but the advance forward is just not good enough. And also, I'm not sure what Kamilius detached for. I'm just going to be honest. I think he felt like his backpacker was dead and just wanted to get off, but it's never really going to be like, look how fast this space gone practically. Akabane's not here.
This is without HawHaw. There's the Baron for Macko. They're going to have Czekolad on the backside of this one here, but can they get out with the Baron buff? That's the real question. Melonik will kill off the Taliyah. A flash by the Gangplank and Cboi as well. If they can get 3 Barons out of this, they should be fine. And now they're going to keep pushing forward. So you can see Game Ward, I'm going to call it, they're getting desperate. They're looking to try and make this one work because they know this game was in their hands. This game was as easy as taking candy from a baby, but that baby is now jacked. That baby has been hitting the gym, and that baby is just smacking you back.
He's been on the protein, by the way. He's so damn strong. And yes, sure, Click gets caught off at the very start, but guess what? He respawned in time to actually have the Baron buff, so they get 3 out of the pit, yes, but he also has it. What does he detach for? Does he just feel... What? It has to be a misclick. That's the only thing it could be. Really, and at this point, it's just an overstep. That barrel connection is huge. It forces all of Game Ward back. Akabane goes directly back to base because he feels like this is going to be the end of the engagement, but Macko, I guess, just catch them with their pants down and pick up the Baron, and now let's see what they can get done with it. That Dragon spawns up in a minute's time. That Soul for Macko, it's not the oppressiveness of the combat stats that you get from Infernal or Hextech, but still, Cloud Soul on the likes of things like the Rakan, for example, the ability to just move faster. It's so potent when you're talking about him being the only form of engage for your side, or even counter engage. That could be huge for that for the PG Net side.
And just again and again, this is just becoming harder and harder. You can see now you got 4 items of the Gangplank. It doesn't matter how big your Sejuani is. That's a 4-item full crit Gangplank. I don't care who you are. You're gonna lose that fight. And now Czekolad trying to be creative, but I mean, I'm gonna call a spade a spade. Melonik, you were super disrespectful to Macko right there. There was no need for you to do that. And I'm gonna be totally honest, you are paying for it right now because Game Ward, we talked about how important first seed is gonna be. They might not be able to secure it now depending on how their match against Dusty and even Schalke no fear later goes.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to think Dusty are watching this game, rubbing their hands together, saying, thank you very much, PG Nats. If you can close this one out, that would be fantastic. Game Ward, though, they're here in the river first. How much will this matter, though, for Macko?
Wards onto Akabane.
They're kind of getting pincered here a bit.
Now they know they're there, so they're going to be able to try and back this one away. This is Soul for the side of Macko. And you can see Game Ward, they're trying to be a bit more creative. They've let their side lanes kind of just to the wayside because they know they can't really go for it. Those barrels are getting mighty close right now. Dragon has been started and is going to be finished off here, you'd imagine, by Akabane if he gets his chance. Click's going to go in, though. They know they just need to get an Innaxe. They miss, but the Weaver's Wall took off any kind of a retreat. Now you can see the Acides going in on top of the Ahri. Czekolad trying to go down, but goes golden. They will get a GA out of Akabane, so it's a 1-for-1 for now as the Rakan and the Ahri are traded.
Yes, they're traded, but how much can Macko continue to press on with? There's no cannon barrage. I think you can let it go. It's not the end of the world, Fion picks one up. Remember, this is Baron time for Macko. This Innaxe back, he's going to teleport in. They still want this.
They want the fight because they know they kill Innaxe. There's no real damage left here.
No
and
flash on Innaxe.
They're going to go for. They get the flick back. The dragon is secured from game board, but they don't know they can do anything else. They're going to try and get Melonik to get out of here, and that's going to be a kill onto him. There's the comeuppance to try and put down the damage, and the Yuumi is dead as well. 2v4. Game board are running with their tails
HawHaw's
between their legs.
HawHaw's on the side.
He's looking to try and get himself in a bit of a roguelike move. Not quite in a position to make it work, though. But again, look what you had to commit. It's now a 1,000 gold lead to game board from what was 8, and Macko are running them back to their bases.
Yes, they are indeed. They don't pick up the dragon. They still find the fight. I think the only silver lining for game board here is that they burned up the Baron time. This engagement Click is so close to being clinical, but it's not quite in range. Czekolad on the backside, though, gets absolutely one-shot whilst Akabane is diving in towards 4 members of Macko. You can see, even though they end up getting traded, disengage comes through from the cannon barrage. Game Board recognize they can no longer advance forward through that choke, and then the re-engage ends up happening through the teleport from ACD.
Again, they just know how powerful they are. They know their late game, so right now it's kind of all on Innaxe. If Innaxe doesn't get himself in a position to carry, as you can see here, he's not putting out any damage. He's just kind of kiting backwards to make sure he doesn't die, so the rest of Game Board just are just passengers here.
Yeah, pretty much, and at that point, as soon as Melonik goes down, the only real front line that they had is gone, and they have to go for a full-blown retreat. I mean, Game Board, man.
I mean,
what do you call a game of one-sided catch? You know, it's just one big throw.
No, it's no friends. It's when you throw it and then there's no one there, and it's like, oh. But yeah, I mean, it's a throw. That's what it is. That's just what it is. It's just a throw from the side of Melonik.
Oh,
I just
they know he's there.
Yeah, they know he's there, but they have been sweeping out the vision here. Minute till Baron spawns. They are going to find out Click with a bit of damage, and he gets taken very low. Zeri's still very relevant late in this game. And look, Game Board can still win this game, but it's a lot harder now. You're nearly at a full item Gangplank. You're nearly at a full item Taliyah. It's going to take a little bit more creativity. Acid-E maybe going to get caught out here from the permafrost. Does have flash, gets himself over the wall, misses the ultimate, still hasn't used his orange. So it'll be K. Czekolad almost goes down, but they do get their man. So without the Gangplank, with no teleport and no cannon barrage, what can Game Board do?
Yeah, there's a 20-second window now where Acid-E's down whilst the Baron is up. Maybe this is a big enough window for Game Board to work with. No cannon barrage, no barrels to have to worry about. This could be huge for the LFL side. This should be a game that realistically was ended about 10 minutes ago almost, but right now, Macko brought it back to them. What can they do with this window is the big question to me right now, because I feel like the window should have been shut in Macko's face a very long time ago.
Should never have been open.
It should have never been opened, yeah.
Should never have been opened. And again, this is what I was talking about earlier. Your wave clear now with the Taliyah on 4 items is huge. It's just impossible to really continuously keep that going. But this is the 20 seconds that you're talking about. Can they make this one work? There is a teleport available to Acid-E. Czekolad misses the charm as he tries to keep everyone away, and woo, he needs to be careful. That's a big old HawHaw who tried to get the damage down. There's the Baron down to about 2,000 HP. They're going to use the final chapter, and now the teleport can come in. They need to get Cboi in the pit, but he can't get the kill. He gets kicked back out. Thank you very much, Akabane. And now we can maybe see a bit of a 5v5. The rest of Game Board are trying to just fight this one back. They know the barrels are huge, but the Zeri is even bigger. Flash forward there, Click on the backside, but no one to follow up. Melonik goes down without using the Tanyas, and now Game Board trying to see if they can run away. This Zeri is still absolutely massive. They need to get out with these Baron buffs. Innaxe wants to try and end it right here, right now. There's a Weaver's Wall, but no one really to follow up afterwards. And the game shall go on, Jamada. Nearly 40 minutes onto the clock, a minute till Dragon spawns.
Oh, that could have been disastrous. That engage from Click on the pincer movement. Game Board could have been fully collapsed on, but the front line, Melonik, despite the build, tanky enough to survive to the point where Innaxe doesn't get one shot after on the follow-up. Now, it's the reverse, isn't it? It's Game Board with the Baron. Cloud Soul, I suppose, an option obviously for both teams now, as it's only one more apiece through either side. What can they really do now that they're kind of the ones, I don't even want to say in the driver's seat, because to me, it still feels like Macko have all of this massive momentum to work with, all of the damage at their fingertips. And again, I don't even really want to point towards the items, but they are there. Double stopwatch on Rharesh and HawHaw. That's a really crucial thing to track. Stopwatch on Innaxe, though. We have to see what he actually ends up stopwatching.
There's a GA again for Akabane, so plenty of ways of stalling out these fights, and we can see how long they're going for them right now. I think that big props, regardless of the results, goes out to Cboi for Macko. He has been exceptional on this Trundle, and he wants to try and keep it going for himself. These barrels not quite landing. Acidi,
but if they do,
yeah, wants to try and get some poke down, but needs to be very careful. And again, the pressure is on for the side of Game War. They haven't actually done their little bit of homework. Top wave's pushing against them. Bot wave's going to be pushing against them as well. Mid lane, these are small little advantages that if Macko just delay, they're going to get more and more off of it.
Yeah, Rharesh is looking for an angle on a wall, I think, but he went a little bit far here. The dragon's being burst down quite low.
Go.
Here's the wall now.
Yeah, he's going to be able to separate them out, and he's going to be able to stop Czekolad as well. They actually let the dragon fully reset, so that wall doesn't really do a lot here for Macko. Woo! That barrel does, though. No, gonna see if they can make this one work. They're gonna have to use the ultimate there on top of Click. He gets the charm. Melonik gets forced into stasis. That's a great cannon barrage to stop really Innaxe from being a part of this fight. He wants to try and push forward with these Qs, with the ultra shock lasers, but he's not quite positioned to do it. HawHaw gets taken really, really low. Czekolad,
no.
He's there. Why would you go there? And you're being sniped down as well. Melonik TP's back into the fight, and now Macko running for their lives. They're gonna try and maybe kill off the Sejuani. They're gonna try and maybe make this one work. Here we go. They're going to try and make it a 5v3. The charm whips in between. Akabane still hasn't died. Czekolad goes down instead. They get Acidi out, but they do lose the Trundle. They're going to lose the Taliyah as well. There's only so many rocks you can throw at a pig before he gets mad and kills you off the face of the earth. So, Game Ward will finish off their Baron buff with a win in the team fight and the Dragon Soul.
All right, Game Ward do what Macko couldn't. They pick up the Soul whilst having the Baron buff. It's a really messy fight. It happens on two fronts. I'm sure we'll get a replay of that. Oh, there you go. Like clockwork. Czekolad on the backline finds out HawHaw here with this charm, and it effectively becomes a 1v1 between them whilst the rest of the team on both sides just fighting it out on the front line. Click. Eventually, what did he get bursted down to? Because obviously he goes in, he gets locked down. Can't quite recall. HawHaw, however,
it was this ultra shock laser.
It's just a bit greedy. And like you say, ultra shock laser connects. Personally, I call it the Spartan laser because that's exactly what it feels like watching people get hit by it. As barrel, I think it actually misses. Czekolad comes in at a really awkward time, unfortunately, but still one-shots him after the fact.
Yeah,
not able to get Akabane or his GA. It's definitely a crucial resource for Game Ward to still have. And the kills go the way of Game Ward. They pick up the Soul, and remember, this is a juiced Cloud Soul. This isn't like a, you know, we were snowballing, so we got 2 clouds. This is 4. You know, that magic scenario I was talking about earlier, where you're walking around with almost 100% movement speed when you press your R key. If you're out of combat, obviously, a bit of caveat there. It's a lot of movement speed, man.
It is.
So we'll see whether or not it actually gives Game Ward some benefit. We'll have to see. Again, it's not a combat soul per se, right? It's not Infernal, it's not Hextech, even Mountain to a degree, right? And there's no Ocean Soul into a poke comp. But they move fast.
They do. They do move fast. Well, they're going to have to try and figure out how they're going to move around these lanes right now, because Macko are doing very well just to keep them in check, make sure they don't lose any more towers to it. Gold basically means nothing. Full items for both top laners. There's Akabane, still with the GA, should be fine if he gets caught out, but doesn't want to lose any of those extra resources like the Hex Drinker or the Guardian Angel. Now you got double Zhonya's here for HawHaw and Rharesh, so see if they're going to go for it. And again, like I said, this is going to, I feel like it's coming down to Acidi. Acidi is going to be the major damage dealer. One good barrel could literally end this game.
Really good. And, you know, I was looking at the schedule today.
Oh, we're a pause.
My assumption is this is a pause, and we're still on the Fastcast feed on our screen. So,
yes.
Hi guys, I'm pretty sure we're on. I'm pretty sure we're on the camera right now. Yeah. I think to me, it's more about like, hey, one barrel connects, yes. Mm-hmm. To me, Game Ward, that's actually thrown me off so much.
I know.
Like, for Game Ward, I think, you know, they still have the tools that they always had, but they actually need to find the crucial target. And I think right now, as we were kind of speaking him up, it's Acidi, right? You have to murder him. Otherwise, we've seen him multiple times throughout team fights. Yes, at the moment, he's 4-6-4, right? It's not the most impressive scoreline. He went from being like 3,000 gold down. Currently, he's only 1,000 up, but 44 minutes into a game, doesn't really matter too much. He is full items. He is a very, very scary Gangplank, and he will murder anybody that walks into his face. I think they're going to need a Baron at the very least. Otherwise, I think Macko can just hold on for a really, really long time. And if the Elder comes into play in 3 minutes' time, that could be effectively endgame, right? Because whoever gets that Elder, most case scenarios, just wins off the back of having that buff.
Yeah, well, we did see during the LPL finals, JDG, or I think it was Top Esports, taking down JDG when JDG in a fight when JDG had Elder. So it depends. It depends on what you get it. But have been told there are ping issues on the side of Macko. So we are waiting to see when they are able to kind of get rectified, and we are investigating right now. Of course, we will jump straight back into game as soon as we possibly can. But look, even if Game Ward win this game, I mean, it started off as an easy breezy. Take your time. Don't be stressing. You got Dusty later on in the game. You got Schalke later on in the day. Let's just take it nice and easy. It's now become stressful. You've now added time. You've added less prep time for yourself. You've added more in-game time that, let's be real, you didn't need to add. And there is still a question mark about whether or not you could finish it. I still think that given the pound-for-pound talent on the side of Game Ward, they should be able to still win out this game. But it's not a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, let's just, it's ex-LEC players you've got on the line. Like you say, there is a lot of talent here, as we seem to have resolved our ping issues. Welcome back to this very tense game. Woo! That wasn't a crit.
No, that's the scary thing. Oh,
look how fast she is, man!
Yeah, well, look how fast she is, but Innaxe had to use a stopwatch just to make that pick work, so they will be able to try and maybe go for the Baron now after that. So Baron up and available in a couple of seconds. I believe our timer in the top right is incorrect at the moment. It's not quite on the same side, but Game Ward, they might just try and end the game here because you don't have the Gangplank barrels, so no real game throw. Oh, Czekolad! Caught between a rock and an ice pillar, so needs to be very, very careful. There's going to be decent CC on top of Cboi, but again, he's still the Trundle, so he's going to be fine kind of soaking that one in. So Game Ward, they've come out of the pause. They're kicking up the pace just a little bit more because, again, I think they're also realizing, damn, like, we need to kill this Gangplank. Like you said, Acidi needs to be the one we get rid of.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, who was kicking up the pace there? Innaxe with those 4 Cloud Souls on the Rift with the ultimate pop as well. Just saying, guys, but Game Ward, they're on the Baron. And now it's a 4v5. SD's not here for another couple of seconds, and they're going for the turn, potentially.
They're looking for the turn, but it's on the Cboi again. Remember, it's still a Trundle. He's got plenty of tenacity, and Melonik not quite in a position to tank this up anymore, so he's going to do what he's been doing every single objective fight. He's going to reset and go and try and get a teleport in. But because of this now, you can't take the Baron. You can't just kind of turn back on that objective. And again, we're starting to see some big moments coming out here from both sides. I think, look at that. So fast.
This is why I love our Observe. Look at how fast he's going, man. Like, what are you supposed to do against that?
That is what goes.
That was so, okay, there's a lot of caveats to add here. But it's percent stacking, right? So he got Shirelias, he ghosted, he got Zoomies. Like, he is actually breaking the sound barrier. Like,
it is a moment to be able to kind of go from mid lane, make a pick down bot. But again, it's something that they're going to have to try and use to their advantage. I think Acidi should be able to just kind of keep himself safe from then on. Should just be able to put some wards down to make sure he doesn't get caught. But that's a lot of big if, buts, and maybes.
Yeah, there it is. I think Acidi now, after that pick on the bottom side, I think he's going to ignore side lanes. I think you have to. And I think the fact that Elder and Baron are both going to be up right now, in about 30 seconds time, just means that these teams are going to be grouped up. We might start to see a bit of NA show up, ignore the side lanes. Whatever happens to those wave states happens. And we're just looking at the big purple worm. Big black and white dragon, but right now, it's the purple worm. And again, Acidi's up, but look at Czekolad. He's not on vision right now, but once he turns that corner, he will be.
They know exactly where he is, so they're going to know that Czekolad is in the vicinity. Barrel's not going to connect as Melonik just kind of stays healthy before he looks for the engage with the Glacial Prison. They get rid of the slow armor. And Melonik won't be able to Arctic Assault over that. They know that Czekolad is off onto the side. HawHaw trying to deal with him as best he can. The Ultra Shock Laser won't land. That's a big barrel onto Innaxe, which means that the cat's going to be called into action. They get the charm. They don't get the flick back because the stasis has been called in. HawHaw goes into stasis himself. He's gotten his GA. Akabane does lose his as well. So that's 2 GAs down. The cannon barrage not really hitting onto anybody, but it stops them from moving forward. Now the game's getting a little bit more sporadic, a little bit more crazy. They can turn around and go straight to mid lane. They can't go to Elder. It's not up on the map right at the moment. Their timers are a little bit off.
Okay.
So we're going to see that, but they get the mid lane push. We see they can go straight back for the Baron.
Yeah, they really can. Akabane, is he going to complete that recall? It's gone. Gone. Has to be stolen.
Has to be stolen. Melonik and Innaxe, you got to be the heroes here for Game Ward. They're not going to be able to do it, and that means you get Baron buffs. You're going to get a reset in, get yourself in for this Elder, and you're still looking good as Macko.
All right, well, Macko now, Baron buff. What are you going to do here? That Elder is spawning up, and it's Game Ward with control, and it's so risky. Checking in
Here we go.
to the jungle here.
It's much healthier health bar, though. The Elder Drake takes a little bit longer to kill off. They know what's going down with that Scryer's orb, so they know what's happening. They know that Czekolad's there. They've caught out all the different movements here from Game Ward, and Game Ward, they're starting to get a little bit desperate.
They really are. Game Ward, if they don't secure this dragon, you have to imagine Macko are going to upset them. This should have been a game that was easy for them to take down, but it's been dragged out almost 50 minutes. Look at Czekolad on the flank here.
He's looking for it right now. HawHaw thinking about maybe going in. Czekolad, he goes in, he lands on the click though. That's not really the person you need. And now they're going to try and go for it. They're going to get the subjugate down. There's the cannon barrage. They're going to try and get Innaxe off of the backside to try and make this one work. He takes down 1, 2, and Innaxe takes the game 100% in his hands. And Game Ward should be able to win it off that.
It'd been almost a silent game for Innaxe, but he's just made the game-winning play 48.5 minutes in. Questions are gonna be asked of Game Ward later on today after this game, because this was a 50-minute game against an opponent with no disrespect to Macko. You saw what they just did. They should have effectively, by expectations, been wiping the floor with, but they will go up to 4-0. It's just not the way that I feel like anybody imagined it would happen.
Yeah, I think the result is very much what we expected. The journey was a different story, and that is a big win now coming out for Game Ward. But I think they could have been done with this game probably 30 minutes ago. They didn't have to go to 50 minutes.
Yes, exactly. Plain and simple. There is not much to break down other than this was a game which Game Ward should have closed out with that gold lead they had. I think you mentioned it's about 8,000 at around the 20-ish minute mark. They just allow the match code to scale. And yes, not traditional comp. There's an Akshan, there's a Taliyah in the bottom lane. Sure, but the complacency was there. And it was very, very obvious. It started with some of those kind of half-hearted Baron attempts, and then eventually it just turned into a situation where Macko were strong enough to contest. The gold lead doesn't matter if the item completions are effectively close enough or the same. Really great stuff from Macko, I think, has to be said. Even though they're going to go 2-0-4 now, I think probably mathematically locked out.
Not quite. So what can happen is that you can get a 3-way tie between Dusty, Schalke, and Macko 2-4. Yeah, so we would need Game Ward to win all of their games. They would need Dusty to lose all their games, and Macko would need to win the last 2. It's a big
Stars
if.
really have to align, don't they? Yeah.
It's a big if. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's not probable.
Yeah. We'll see what they can get done. I think no matter what, they can be pretty happy with the performance here. And still, have to go up against Dusty, have to go up against Schalke. I think, given what we just saw here, yes, the early game was still, let's not pull any punches, relatively dire. I think, especially into an NFL team who we've kind of been told, more or less by some of the representatives over there, that they're not always the most aggressive early game team. You're falling behind that far, against likes of Game Ward. What will Dusty potentially do to you? Or even, in my opinion, Schalke haven't exactly fully been defanged despite the roster shakeup there. They are still very capable of, bringing it to you in the early game. I mean, hell, Macko is 0-3 for a reason. They also lost to that Schalke lineup. So we'll see what Macko can get done still, because this is a very positive performance for them.
I mean, it did feel like it's very positive, but it's bittersweet. It did feel like you were a little bit disrespected, I think is the honest answer there. Game Ward had a little bit of fun with this particular matchup, but they weren't able to punish effectively. And that's the thing. Look, LFL, it's bittersweet because the way I say it is like you made them sweat, but that's about as much as you did. You didn't really get the result you wanted, because a win here could have been huge for Macko, just to try and even give them that little bit of hope that they could maybe make it into knockouts.
And I think even if you start to talk about the sort of macro of the group, right? This loss here for Game Ward would have been huge for teams like Dusty, even Schalke, right?
Would have shook up the whole group.
It would have shook up the whole group entirely. Now, I'm not saying that things look boring, but what I'm saying is you got a 4-0 team and you got a 0-4 team. There's not too much variation in where these teams will finish. Still, each match is going to be important for everybody here. The chance is still alive for Dusty to make top 1. The chances are still there for Schalke to also qualify. And hell, maybe we get the all-elusive 2-4 tiebreaker. I doubt it will happen, but
I mean, as an NLC representative, I don't think you want it to happen.
No, I don't. I'm obviously still back in the NLC boys, of course, but yeah, looking back at some of the highlights here from this game, man. I mean, it was 50 minutes of straight banger, in my opinion. Well, 30 minutes of straight.
I was going to say
the first 20 minutes.
The first 20 were pretty one-sided, but after that, it did feel like, again, bit by bit, the belief was coming out here as we get the cat coming out. Yeah, I can see what they actually thought there. He thought Akabane didn't, or there's just not communication there to say he was going to flash, so maybe he thought he was going to go down. So he was like, cool, I need to detach and get to someone else, but just at the wrong timing. Yeah,
unfortunate there. That's dropping this fight. This fight here for Macko. If Click connects on this engage, you have to imagine the fight is so one-sided. Innaxe gets one shot, and then from that point on, you just pick up the dragon. You could even go towards, I think the Baron was already picked up at this point by Macko, but you could go and potentially break the base, right? Get an inhibitor. Hell, maybe even win the game. We were far enough into it at this point, right? I think 33, 34 minutes in at this point. With Baron buff, it could have been enough. But man, these fights were tooth and nail.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot closer than you needed to be. And like I said, you know, at the end of the day, Macko will be happy with the way they were able to bring this one back. I think they were definitely be happy with the fact that they said, look, we were disrespected and we gave them something to think about. But again, it's always bittersweet when you feel like you get a late game Taliyah, you get a late game Gangplank. It feels like you should be able to do something. And I will say, I think HawHaw just really didn't have the impact he needed to have. I think when you think of AD mid laners, they're always the ones that are kind of able to come out, make a kill happen, get somewhere else, but he just kept getting caught.
Yeah, I definitely feel like in terms of like the sort of visible, tangible impact, it didn't look like he did too much, but I'm wondering how much damage he was able to achieve, right? Because Akshan at the end of the day,
hopefully we'll see soon.
That's kind of his job. Obviously, this highlight package is long for a reason.
Yeah,
the game was long. The game
was a 50-minute long.
It was a 50-minute slugfest, which came down to 8 dragons spawning on the map.
Yep,
I think 3 barons in total. Yeah.
Like 3 barons, 8 dragons.
It's a game which shouldn't have gone this long. Plain and simple, we've said it a couple of times. I'm sure we'll start to sound like broken records very soon. But this is the final engage here. The initial part, so good from Czekolad, but it's all about Innaxe, isn't it? Like,
oh, that ultra shock labor was disgusting.
We half criticized it for having a relatively quiet game, but at the end of the day, he made the game-winning play there. Over the wall, ultra shock laser, one shot's half the team. Chase down is as easy as that. And game ward, sure, by results, business as usual. The questions will still be posed. And the other question was, how much impact did HawHaw have? The answer was not too much. Even Trundle almost dealt as much damage as the Akshan, unfortunately.
That's why my criticism comes in. It just feels like HawHaw on this Akshan kind of pocket pick didn't do a lot, to be perfectly honest, and it felt like everyone else was bringing it up. And look, you could nitpick certain different things. You know, of course, you're going to do a lot of damage here as the Sejuani. You built full AP, and Game Ward still get the result. A dub is a dub, but yeah, it should never have been as good. Like, you can even see in the goal graph, there was never a moment there where Macko were actually ahead, but they brought it all the way back to even. So definitely a lot of questions to kind of come up here. And I can imagine the Game Ward staff and coaches will be having more than just a slap on the wrist to Melonik and the rest of his team for letting that game go for 50 minutes.
I don't know if I can say it on air. It used to be an old meme I used to have, so I'm just gonna hold my tongue. But you know, definitely some stern talking to the players, not in a negative way, of course, right? But more in the sense of, guys, get our crap together. We can have fun on the Rift. Fun is important, actually, when it comes to a competitive environment. When you, it's a game at the end of the day, and when you see the most successful teams, I think the obvious like pointers too are like teams like G2, right, who always seem to have so much fun when they're winning, but even when they're losing, it feels like you always see the jiggles.
You gotta win convincingly in order to get away with that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So, you know, a little more respect, I think, is probably just the end result here, especially when you go up against Dusty. Game 3, that's the game, right? You almost dropped this game. Where's your head going to be at when you get towards Dusty? Are we just 4-minute reset? It varies team to team, right? You have a performance like that, you might be wondering about yourself when it comes to that game. Of course, get a look at the standings, like we kind of mentioned earlier. 4-0, 0-4. That is the impact that this will have on the standings here. And I assume Game 1 are locked top 2, bare minimum. Shouldn't be able to get knocked out, though I suppose technically Schalke still have to play their game, so they could win all 3. They
could go 4-2, and the same as we could have a 2-4 tiebreaker, we could have a 4-2 tiebreaker. But before you go on, I'm gonna have to talk to you there because we got to toss to break. Sadly, we're gonna have to leave you there. You can come back to it in a bit, but we'll see you guys very, very shortly.